Welcome everybody to the 2025 company info session for the TNT Agri-Food Investment Summit. I'm Jesse Weeb, your community development lead and the lead for the Agri-Food Summit this year. Um, Encouraging everybody who's here live in attendance. Please introduce yourself, where you're from in the chat. We'd love to learn a little bit more about you, and you never know who you might meet in the chat of a TNT Zoom call. So, just a quick introduction about myself. I grew up on a farm. This is the farm I grew up on. Was just outside Saskatoon. It's still an operating farm, but the family is transitioning out of it because we're focused more on venture capital now, and we've been investing with TNT for the past nearly 4 years now, and really enjoyed bringing TNT to Saskatchewan, and saw an opportunity in the ag sector. And for the last 2 years, I've been doing that. So I got into started TNT thanks in large part to my father, who was actually one of the original co-founders of Ag Expert. That's the acquisition there in 2002. When FCC purchased Settler Computer Technologies, and that accounting software moved over to FCC. So if you'd like to learn more about that story, always happy to chat about it. And always been a big fan of entrepreneurs. Dragon's Den is a popular and favorite show of mine, and we've actually had a few dragons now get involved with Startup TNT, so which is really exciting. And then tried to build a number of startups out in the Toronto region when I was going to school out there. Unfortunately, nothing took off, but I've learned a lot in the process. And then for the past few years, I've been working with Startup TNT. So you might be asking yourself, what is Startup TNT? What is it that we do? Well, we're a nonprofit organization that rallies communities to collaborate and invest in their startups so that they can stay here in Canada, they can stay in their local regions, and they don't have to move down to the US to grow and scale. And so this organization was started in 2019 as an expanded across Western Canada, and officially this spring, thanks to the generous support of our Agri-Foods program, we've been able to expand it to include Ontario and the Yukon for companies is alongside Western Canada. So really excited about that. But as you can see here, TNT stands for Thursday Night Tradition. We meet regularly on Thursday nights in a number of different markets. Our motto is have fun, make friends, build companies. So we're always trying to keep fun at the forefront, but don't let our sort of fun demeanor fool you. We do take ourselves very seriously. Our investors are real investors, and we're investing in real companies, as you can see here on the right-hand side. These are some of the companies that have participated in all of our different summit programs. Really proud to see that we've had winners. These are Farm Simple and BetterCart are our two ag-focused summit winners, but like Feed Flow, for example, and Simple Hedge won regional summits. Pathoscan this past fall in Saskatchewan that are also in the ag space. So we've been supporting a lot of companies in the ag and agri-food sector for the last few years. Also, just a quick note, if at any point you have any questions as I start to dive in, we're just going through some overview now, and then we're going to really get into the summit process and procedure. If you've got any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat or use the reaction button with the hand up to raise your hand, and I will call on you. So these are our partners and sponsors that are confirmed so far. I put the to be revealed there on the Powered By. We actually just got approval this week to close the arrangement with a really big Powered By sponsor. I'm sure you all know who they are. They're very large and very active in the agri-food space. And so keep your eyes out for a big announcement in the next week or so about that. But love to highlight some of our other best friends forever. Natural Products Canada, Mercurture, MNP have been big supporters of TNT's work for a while, and we're really glad to have them on board again. Our close friends, BDC, RBCX, Osler, and Emily. are also really thankful for their support. Of course, our VC friend, Tallgrass Ventures, for the last 3 years. We've had Tallgrass Ventures, a great ag tech fund out of the Calgary region. Big fan of them, and they're a big fan of us. And then we've got our community supporters in CDL, Thrive, Ontario Soil Network, Foresight Canada, and BAM. Especially those last three, they have, but also Natural Products Canada, for example. These organizations have a number of different programs to support agri-food companies. I highly encourage you to check out their websites, their programming as well, to see if there's a good fit for you. So yeah, Natural Products Canada, Emily, CDL, Thrive, I know Foresight and BAM all have some programming depending on where you're located. So just quick, who is the team on the summit? So of course myself, the community development lead for TNT. There's a couple other people you may encounter. Jonah, who is the overall TNT operations lead. He's particularly around the closing. As we're closing deals, you may encounter him. My colleague Niles Johnson, who's going to be the Agri-Food operations lead. You may be getting some emails from him, especially around the pitch nights, as we get organized and make sure that everybody is properly briefed and ready to go for those evenings. And then, of course, the two co-founders of TNT, Zach and Tim, are always going to be around during the process. So why join the TNT Agri-Food Summit? You may be asking yourself. Well, first and foremost, it is real companies meeting with real investors, right? Our investors pre-commit capital to the process. I'll explain that in just a minute. But that allows you to have a meeting with an investor who has already determined that they are going to be making an investment during the course of the process, right? We typically get about a six-figure check at a minimum, so $100,000 at a minimum for our startups that go through the process. And there's an opportunity for the investors to invest more in the winner or to invest money into any of the companies they see throughout the process. So you're going to get some great experience talking to real investors. They're going to give you feedback directly and also through me. Throughout the process, I attend all the investor meetings. I get to see all the due diligence materials that the investors are preparing. And if you get eliminated at a certain stage, like don't make it all the way to the end, you get feedback on how to improve for next time. And looking back at that logo wall, and say Better Cart is our last year's winner is a prime example of this. A number of companies have come through multiple times before they've been successful. Better Cart, I believe, got a deal on their third try, like a side deal, and then on their fourth try, they won. So sometimes it takes a little while, and that's perfectly okay. As well, throughout the process, we help you navigate, the different elements of due diligence, help you build a data room. We provide a checklist as well as videos on our YouTube channel that you could follow on how to properly build out a data room and make sure it is ready for proper due diligence from, say, larger investors. We've often heard that this is one of the most valuable parts of the process for companies that have come through our summits. As mentioned, feedback is an important part of what we do, but then also visibility, right? So there are two public pitch events, and I'll explain those in just a few minutes. The top 20 and the finale, where you get exposed, but you also get an opportunity to get exposed to our network, right? We have VCs and sponsors and partners in our network that love supporting startups. We share information with those different organizations. We've often seen that companies that do well in our process end up, getting into incubators and accelerator programs, getting additional investment from VCs in our network. So there's a really great opportunity there to get more exposure, and you never know, right? And I also just mentioned for Agri-Food as well, which is really great. Our investors are from industry, generally speaking, right? About 2/3 of the investors, I would say, are from the agri-food sector in one way, shape, or form. So we're talking about farmers, we're talking about egg business owners, folks that own, say, like a malting process plant is one of our investors. Maybe they own, a restaurant franchise. That's another one of our investors. But they have a relation to the agri-food sector, which means they are primary, first and foremost, potential customers for you, which is a really great way to interact with them, and hopefully you can get their money as well as them as a customer. So just something to keep in mind. So thinking about whether or not your company is a good fit for this program, a couple of things to keep in mind. It is a 6-week, pretty intensive due diligence process. So once you're in it, you got to be ready for it. There's all kinds of preparation materials on our website, and as I mentioned, on our YouTube channel. I'll get to that a little later on to prepare. But once we're in it, we need to meet regularly with you. If you are traveling throughout the process, you have conferences, conventions, meetings, whatever it is to get to. Almost everything can be done virtually except for the in-person summit finale, right? So there's a pitch night on April 3rd at 4 p.m. Mountain. I'll explain that in a couple minutes. But there's an in-person finale in Regina on May 1st, and we require our finalists to make their best possible effort to be in Regina for that. It's a really great event, and I'll explain more about what happens. Of course, you need to be ready to take investment. So you need to be ready to take a $100,000 check, need to be incorporated. We typically do our investments through SAFEs or convertible notes. I can explain that if anyone's curious. But you do need to be ready to get investment. As well, companies need to be from the agri-food sector. They can be from, as you can see there in the bottom right-hand corner, from a number of different geographic regions, but you do need to be within the agri-food sector. It's a pretty broad definition. Innovative technology that increases efficiency, productivity, or sustainability in the food supply chain. So if you're confused whether or not you're a good fit, feel free to reach out. But generally speaking, we're keeping it pretty broad. And if you have a relation to agri-food and you're doing something in one of these 3 categories or one of these themes down here, I think you're going to be just fine. And of course, we're typically looking at earlier stage organizations. Another way to put this is if you're raising sort of below $2.5 million, that's a good place to apply. If you're raising much more than that, we're not. Typically, those companies don't do very well as they're too far along for our investors to find them to be a worthwhile investment for them. Because bear in mind, if you're raising like $5 million, we're like a $200,000 check. The math just doesn't work out. So a couple key dates during the process. And again, just quickly note, if anyone's got any questions at any point, feel free to post them in the chat or raise your hand to ask them. We've already had applications open. I put March 11th on here the other day, but we're actually going to extend it to March 13th. So just to note that we're extending the deadline to March 13th. If you'd like a couple more extra days to apply, it honestly should not take you that long to apply if you are out there and ready to raise capital. It's about, I'd say, a 5 to 10 minute process. Shortly thereafter, we do the kickoff on the 19th. I forgot to put that on here. But then on March 24th, we have our top 20 determined. So we can prepare for the top 20 pitch night on April 3rd. There's also light coffee meetings that happen, light DD meetings, about 30 minutes with the investors between March 24th and April 3rd. So you get an opportunity to actually meet the investors. And then based on that first meeting with the investors and the pitch night, we determine our top 10. The top 10 then provide data rooms, and we get into more intensive due diligence before eventually cutting to 5. The 5 finalists are the top 5 are the companies that are going to pitch at the finals. So we have a couple last weeks to negotiate and do our final intensive due diligence before the finale, where we live on stage announce our winner. And then it takes, I'd say, typically at least a month for us to finalize the size of the deal, make sure all the paperwork is good to go, make sure we've got all the money collected from our investors, and then signing the agreement with the startups that we're investing in and getting the funds transferred over. If there is a rush for whatever reason, we just ask the companies to let us know their particular circumstance so that we can act accordingly. All right, moving through. So yeah, what to expect during the due diligence. I mentioned light coffee meetings. We call them coffee meetings, but in reality, it's a virtual meeting. It starts with a half an hour meeting at the top 20 stage, where you'll meet with 2 to 3 investors. That'll pepper you with questions for the full 30 minutes. They take notes that are then shared back with the other investors. A copy of that notes template is provided on our website, so you get to see what template the investors are working off of. It's pretty straightforward. It's questions like what's your market traction, what's your intellectual property, what's the history of your team, what's your background, what's your sales strategy, all those types of things. We ask you those questions for about 30 minutes, and then based on that in the pitch is how we cut down to 10. And then at the 10, investors get a chance to dig into your data rooms, as mentioned here. And we get some references typically at that point. Investors are also meeting regularly on Sunday evenings to talk through what they're learning, ask each other questions, and sometimes from that there'll be follow-ups where the investor team that is assigned to work with you will reach out. We often will do demos or IP reviews, especially as we get down close to the end. If there's an opportunity for some investors, depending on location, to come to your facility and actually see the technology firsthand, we love to do that. They'll take some videos and share it back with the rest of the investors. But anytime we have a chance to kind of put something in our hands, we love to do that. Or perhaps with Agri-Food, which has happened a couple of times, maybe there's a chance for us to eat it or drink it. So our investors will, maybe order some of your product to their house and see if they can and taste test it before the finale. And I'll note every deal is bespoke. Unlike some other programs that are out there, we don't have like a specific deal terms set at the outset. So if we do the negotiation in those final stages, and we have to have a deal in place before the finale. That is critical because that is what we are voting on who wins at the end of the day is the deal that we want to take. So we need to make sure that there's a deal structure in place at the end of the process. Any questions? No. Okay. I keep pausing for questions, but seems like people are following along. Okay, so how does it actually work for the investors that are making the decision on the back end? Well, it's a ranked ballot voting system throughout. So first off, when we choose our top 20, we're getting your application questions, we're getting a copy of your pitch deck. We take all of that and we give it to the investors. The investors then review at least 10 companies. Some of them review all of them. But we'll get a pretty good diversity of answers. So investors score them on a scale of 4 to 1. So 4 is hard yes, and 1 is a hard no on whether or not they want to take a meeting with you. So it's like, is this company? Do I want to take a meeting with this company? The scoring is then aggregated, and then the top 20 companies proceed to the top 20. So we typically see sort of anything above like a 2.5 is kind of the breaking point, where so more yeses than nos. Then from there, at each of the next stages, the investors rank the companies, from 1 to 10, or in the case of the final winner, 1 to 5. We give first place 10 points, second place 9 points for each investor, we add up those total points, those aggregate ratings, and that's how we come up with our top 5 and our top 10 and our top 5 choices. And then, of course, for the final investment, the company with the highest points wins. There is a tiebreak mechanism. It has happened before. It's the company with the most first place votes that goes on to win. So, and I will mention, because we'd often see near the end that investors are kind of fighting over, 2 or 3 deals. In fact, the last 2 investment summits, it's been a 3-horse race in each of them. And so we've ended up with 3 investments in our last 2 Agri-Food investment summits. So there is a chance for more than one deal to be funded here at TNT. Quick question there is, will a copy of these slides be available after the presentation? Yes, I will absolutely make sure that gets shared with all of you. I'm also recording this and we'll be sticking it on our YouTube channel for you to share with your colleagues or anyone in your network. Is the safe common? Yes, I would say 75% of our deals are done on either a safe or a convertible note, with the majority of those being safes over the convertible note. We like the safe. We have a template, a post-money valuation safe ready to go. Yeah, happy to talk a little bit more about that at the end. Pitch events. So these are 2 really fun events. We've got a virtual pitch night on April 3rd. It is public. It's on you. We put it on YouTube, and the pitchers are on Zoom. You can invite all your friends. Tell your network, hey, I'm pitching. It's 3 minutes of pitching, and then it's back to back to back. Right, so no Q&A. We have our partners and sponsors there as well, acting as introducers, co-hosts of the evening, so they introduce the pitches. Then after 6 in Western Canada anyway, and if you so choose, if there's some folks out in the Ontario or up in the Yukon, since we haven't fully set up our operations there yet, if you'd like to host an after party, let's chat. But we hosted across Western Canada, where you can go out at evening and actually meet up with some TNT folks, because that same day we also have pitches happening live and in person in Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver, because Summit 11 is happening at the same time as the Agri-Food Summit. And then on May 1st is our big finale night in Regina. It's a really awesome event. Regina is widely becoming an ag tech hub. We've got the Cultivator Ag Tech Accelerator. The headquarters for FCC are there, and we've hosted our finales there the last 2 years. Encourage everybody to come, whether you're in the finale or not, because there's a great chance to network. All the investors come to town, the partners and sponsors come to town. During the day, we run some private networking for our out-of-town guests. And then, of course, in the evening, we run a big party and pitch night. For the finale, it's a 4-minute pitch plus a 3-minute Q&A. And there's obviously, some more time to get showcased there at the finale night. And if you're not able to make it in person, you can always watch virtually and then attend after parties in the other cities. As again, Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver will be doing their pitch nights that evening as well. All right. A couple of things to note during the summit program, things we've set up to help the companies succeed. So first and foremost, we've got our educational database on our website. There's a playlist on there. I'll show that in a minute. How to prepare for a DD meeting. We've done sessions on that, how to make your data room, how to show up as a mentee, thanks to Mindframe Connect. All kinds of really great sessions. So I highly encourage you to check those out and start preparing using those sessions. Then throughout the process, there are 3 sessions, one at top 20, one at top 10, and one at top 5. At the top 20 stage, we do a peer-to-peer pitch practice on the morning of the 27th. So that's 1 week before the pitch night. We bring in some of our partners, as I mentioned earlier, folks like CDL, Foresight. They will act as pitch coaches, and in small breakout rooms, you'll have a chance to pitch to your peers and get some feedback so that you can prepare for the pitch night. Then on April 10th, we run our deal terms office hours, so bringing in our legal partners, McKercher and Osler. We review sort of what standard deal terms look like, where the market's at, what's normal, what's not normal, what's common, what's not, and give you an opportunity to ask questions about how you might like to structure a deal. Maybe you've got a tricky situation with a past investor, your cap table is a little messy. You got some questions about that. These are legal experts who do these types of deals all day, every day. And Osler in particular puts out every year a deal points report where they review deals in the venture capital market and kind of set what standards there are out there. So I highly encourage you to read that report yourself. But that session will be a great session for the top 10 only, to learn a little bit more about that. And then finally, at the top 5 stage, we try to help you get additional investment from other investors and VCs in our network. So we do a speed dating. You get to meet 3 investors over the course of an hour, matched based on investment thesis fit. So we try to find investors that are actively deploying capital into your industry and are interested in say it's you're a biotech company. We find a biotech investor, and you get to meet with them, and then hopefully they're really interested, and they'll follow up with you after the speed dating. As mentioned, yeah, the YouTube channel there. We've got a playlist. I think I can copy the link and post it in the chat. Check. Oh, there we go. That works. Oh. Hopefully that works. That should take you to the playlist. But you should be able to find everything on our website. So, including the DD checklist. And again, I'll share these slides after so you can click on these links yourself. A lot of people ask the question about our investment structure and how it works. So our investors are each pre-committing $5,000 each. We also have a vintage fund. So this auto invests into all the winners in 2025. Some of the LPs are coming through the vintage fund. Some of them are just doing the direct 5K, but it all goes into one limited partnership that then writes one check into your company. So one line item on your cap table, right? You could potentially have 30, 40, 50, 60 investors on the back end with TNT, but we only send one check to you. We can send you a list of investors if you want to see, but often we find it's just tough to manage that big of a group. We provide one email address that you can send updates to that we distribute then to the wider investor pool. If you want to have a particular relationship, put somebody on a board seat. TNT as the entity doesn't negotiate any of that. But we do encourage our investors to get involved with the companies and encourage the founders to seek mentorship from the investors if they so choose. Right. We have often seen that. We've seen investors jump in on boards, investors jump in as employees. We've actually even seen one investor end up taking over as the CEO of one of the companies they invested in. That's rare. It's like one out of like 100. So. But it is possible. So that's how the investment structure works. Any questions about that? This is often somewhere where people get confused. Nope. Okay. Just quickly about side deals. Same difference. You just don't get the vintage fund. That's the main difference. Investors can also top up their commitments into the winning deal. So our largest ever winning deal was last spring in an ag tech company out of Calgary. It was over 500,000. We actually had over 700,000 in interest. So it is possible for us to get some bigger checks. Just depends on how excited about the deal our investors are and how deep the pocket of the investors that are participating are. And then, yeah, our investors, if they so choose, before the finale, I'll also mention we get our, sort of minimum check size that you're willing to take. Typically, it's 25,000. Sometimes it's 50 or 100. But we'll get a sense of, what's the minimum check that you would take on a side deal. And if we're able to raise, an investment above that amount and you're willing to take it, then we'll get a side deal going and invest. So side deals can range from like 25,000. And we've seen side deals as big as like 150, 200,000. So side deals can get pretty big too. A couple last things to note. Overall, what we expect of the founders, is to be receptive to feedback. And you're trying to build a relationship here with investors that they say the average startup investment is longer than the average marriage. So you're going to be in this with them for a while. So be receptive to feedback. Obviously, you're building the company. Investors are going to have a lot of questions, a lot of things to say about how they think that it could be done or should be done. Sometimes that can be useful, and sometimes you maybe need to push back, right? And that's okay. We encourage our investors to be thoughtful in how they approach it. We as I mentioned, we love to see companies come through multiple times, so we want to build a good relationship with you. But if you're too adamant that you're right at all times, it's going to be tough to build a relationship, right? So be receptive to that feedback. Making friends with these investors, get to know them, encourage you to, come out to those evening events. We have them tonight in a bunch of the different markets. So if you're out here in Western Canada, encourage you to come out, get a chance to meet some of the investors, meet myself, get to know us a little bit better. And of course, it is a competition, but at the same time, we want to see entrepreneurs supporting one another, right? We want to see opportunities for collaboration, for partnerships, right? I mentioned you never know who you meet in a TNT Zoom chat. We've seen relationships form that way. We've seen partnerships become out of a peer-to-peer pitch feedback. You're like, oh wow, actually your company and my company have a lot in common. Like I think we could do some stuff together. We love to see that. So encourage you to get to know your fellow investors and help and support them. Keeping up to date with what's going on. So once the summit actually gets going, we send out weekly email updates, but there also is a newsletter you can sign up for to kind of keep you up to date on what's going on with TNT. Once you get into the summit, though, we will be sending out regular emails. And all those who signed up for today's company info session, you will get blasted with a couple of reminders leading up to the application deadline to make sure you get those applications in. As mentioned, the happy hours coming out to those, great opportunity to keep up with what's going on, and there is that playlist with the database on what's you need to know in order to prepare for the summit. So yeah, happy hours from Thursdays from 6 to 9. It's not every week in every city. Saskatoon, we try to do it every other week. But like Edmonton, Calgary, Regina, and Vancouver, it's just about every week. Go to the website, you'll find more details there on where it's located and what you need to know to make sure. There's usually no registration, but we do encourage folks to register in Saskatoon, just to help us keep track of numbers for the venue. And yeah, if you got any questions, feel free to reach out to me at Jesse at Startup TNT or my colleague Nels at my family office, We Grow. If you can't get a hold of us, you can also try your friends at startuptnt.com. That goes straight to the ops team. Just to note that Jonah, our TNT ops lead, is quite overwhelmed because he's across multiple summits. So generally speaking, I should get back to you. Me or Niles should get back to you pretty quickly. But if you can't get a hold of me, try Niles. And yeah, there's the final slide. Stay tuned for the big announcement on the Powered By. We're really excited for who that's going to be, and get your applications in within the next week or so. It's actually extended to March 13th, as I mentioned. And yes, make sure you book those dates. Minnie.
Yeah, I'm just curious to know about that. I'm in Winnipeg. Is there any way to attend online?
Yeah, also the during the summit, it's pretty much all online, except for that finale event, as I mentioned,
Oh, okay.
require you to travel to Regina. It's a short drive-ish, 6 hours or something, I think. But
The thing is, I don't drive. I don't know driving, and that's the funny part.
well, yeah, I mean, we'll if we get down to the end, we'll talk about it. But hopefully, we can find you a way to get to Regina for the finale. But other than that, yeah, the meetings with the investors can be done virtually. The education is done virtually. The pitch night on the 3rd is done virtually. So pretty easy for you to participate.
Yeah, I'm biotechnology background, medtech professional. Like find that these kind of support is very crucial for aspiring entrepreneur. I'm also thinking like not right now, but in like couple of years, maybe 1 or 2 years later, to start something of my own. But before that, I wanna make it, a strong research behind it, because what, as you said, that there is scoring by every investor. So if your project is strong enough, then the chances are more. So that's why I registered for this, to see that do you provide any mentorship, coaching, or something like that. And agri-tech and medtech is my favorite topic, so that's why.
Well, yes, great to connect. Thank you for reaching out. And yeah, during the process, we sort of find natural mentorship and coaching happenings, with the investors. As I mentioned, the investors are coming from the agri-food industry, so they know and understand, what it takes to build a company. Often they've built a company themselves. So highly encourage you to participate and hopefully get a chance to learn a little more. Anybody else for questions? If not, we can end it a little early. All right. Seeing no immediate questions, I will leave it there. And thank you all for coming out live, and for those watching on the recording. Um, yeah, thanks for taking the time to listen to us. And please go to the TNT website there, startuptnt.com/agrifood/raise to request the application form. And good luck. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.